First item on the agenda is public comment. Hearing none, we will go to liaison comments. Doc. And our liaisons are not here. I understand that first Selectman Hull is on the way, so we will take that item out of order. And then she arrives. Next item is review current financial statements. Do you have those?
Yeah, thank you.
How are you?
Joe, pass the agenda down, please. Okay, so a couple of lines to look at moving forward. The medical line, that is where the physicals come out for all the guys. We should be pretty close on that line by the end of the year. We have 81 encumbered, and we have 86 left in the budget available, so we should hopefully be pretty good throughout the year. We do still have to buy some EpiPens because the ones we have are coming up for expiration. And as we know, EpiPens are expensive. We're probably in the area of about $750, $800 are set. So just keep that in mind. The other one that we've been talking about for the last few months, we sent is repair maintenance machine 53510. We sent a request, a letter to the Board of Selectmen and to the Board of Finance to request contingency, which the Board of Selectmen basically okayed it, went to the Board of Finance, and what I understand from the Finance Director, it's like what happens every year. They're made aware of it. They didn't fund, they didn't move any money over, but they know about it, and we'll take care of that line toward the end of the year, most likely in June or early July. We'll cover what we need to cover out of that line like we've done historically for the last 4 or 5 years out of that line.
Sean, my memory of that in prior years is we've gone to them when we've had unusual expenses, but when we still have money in the budget, anticipating that we would use it up and go over, whereas we're here, we're already over.
We are, and
So how are we going to spend money? How are we going to make repairs in the meantime?
because we went to them and we asked for an additional $35,000 to hopefully try to cover us the rest of the year. It was basically a guesstimate. We have, we're going to really have no idea where we stand to the end of the year.
No,
So if we have a
it's-
catastrophic failure,
Yeah, it's just more of a practical question. Are they going to approve invoices for repairs going forward, even though they're constantly
yes,
negative?
yes, they're aware of it. And we can talk about that in my report. The other line is technical. We're going to keep an eye on that line. Like we discussed at the last meeting, we responded to, I think it was 522 calls last year, over 100 motor vehicle accidents with multiple cars. What happens with that line is what it is for everyday supplies. So that's the speedy dry, the absorbent that we put down on the road to absorb the antifreeze, the oil, whatever fluids are leaking out of the vehicles. That also covers the drip pans, plug and dyke, water, everything, basically the everyday equipment, the everyday consumables come out of that line. So it's quite a bit, and we, on the average, we're right around four, maybe 425 a year, and last year we were at over 520. So it's just something we should look at because we increased our call volume by at least 100 calls from last year.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
Do we know how many of the calls you respond to roughly are Woodbridge residents versus not Woodbridge residents?
No.
You know, like motor
Do we
vehicles,
have a
because
way to
obviously the
track
houses
that?
are residents.
Yeah. No, I mean of
No.
motor vehicle accidents.
The people that could probably track would probably be the PD since they get all their information on it. But
Like mutual aid.
No,
no,
she's
if you're
asking
driving
about
through, if you're
who's-
driving through town, how many residents are
Oh,
involved in
okay.
motor vehicle accidents?
Yeah, I'm just curious if you wanted to target some kind of a public, what's the word I'm looking for?
Safety campaign?
Education?
Yeah. How would you note it if you should target residents or just people driving through billboards or something? That's just my,
Just, I feel like this, it's not primarily Woodbridge residents or
Okay.
anything.
It's hard to tell. It really is.
Well, remember, just because it's a motor vehicle accident and you're basically only getting the driver information, you could have 4 people in the car. So a couple of them could be from Woodbridge and some of them could be out of towners. So, but we don't track unless they go to the hospital. And even at that, it would be hard for us to get that. The hydrant line you'll see is at 98% because the second payment is encumbered, which we usually pay that in July. So that 44,000 is encumbered.
Okay, any other questions on the operating budget year to date?
And just be aware of that 53510 repair maintenance machine. Some of that money that is encumbered and has gone over is due to the fire, where we had some equipment that break down and the bills are coming in, so we're paying them as they come in. But remember, some of that's going to be covered under the insurance, so the town should be
Glenwood Road
get
fire?
some. Yeah, the town should be getting some of that money back, or a good
How do they
portion of
account
it
for
back.
that? That doesn't, does that,
That would go back to the town.
it goes back to the general fund, but is it, so it's not netted out on our budget?
It would be netted out, but by the end of the year, what we'll say is, and I'm just gonna use the number, right now, we're roughly $20,000 in damage from the fire. So basically, if we take the 20,000 and deduct it off of whatever we're asking for, that's really the number we're looking at, even though the number looks really high now. Roughly, we have $20,000 of damage. Okay?
Anything on capital non-recurring?
Capital non-recurring, no. Okay?
Okay.
can I just ask a question?
Sure.
On these truck reserves, where it's expended, does that mean it's in a reserve account or you bought paid for a
Ex-
truck or debt service?
No, it's spent.
Expended means it's done. The next line, encumbered or request, that's what we have POs for. That's what's open right now.
Okay, so you had 810 in a reserve account and you bought a truck this year?
No, this has nothing to.
It's historical.
Oh, you're talking about the
The
capital
reserve, the
non-recurring?
tanker, truck reserve and tanker reserve.
Right, so when you look at the air packs, right, when you, the second line down, and it shows 70,696.83, that's encumbered. So that's what was in the budget, that was the payment, so the payment's gotta be coming up anytime now, in the next couple of weeks. We may or may not get that bill. Finance usually takes care of that, even though it's in our budget. And the same deal with, let's see, engine 7, is that over here?
Well, so you look at fire tanker reserve,
Yeah,
that was spent years ago.
that was just debt
Years.
service.
No, it's
it was.
just, for some reason, it's hard to take it off of munis, so they leave it on. So, but, yeah.
I don't think that was financed, that was paid basically cash out of, and is that for both trucks?
What's that?
For both tankers, that 524 amount?
Yes.
And
So
that's
the
two
tanker
trucks
was bought,
over
the first tanker was bought in 2009, and the second was in 2012. So those trucks are paid for and gone, but it still shows up on this.
Does that answer the question? This is the most confusing report we have.
It answers the what, not the why.
It's,
But that's okay.
yeah, the why we,
The why, I think it's hard for them to take it off of Munis, off the report for some reason.
Is it amortized, or is it just, that's the number, it's always on there, the same?
The number is always on there.
but this is, you know, where it says revised budget, those numbers go back 10 years or more. Some of those are a combination of, you know, lease payments in arrears, others just represent just, you know, non-finance cash spending, depending on the particular line item. But what we do know from this is that we have a $70,000 payment coming up for the air packs, and that's a budget amount. And Sean, there's a hose replacement is incumbent for almost $14,000. Are we doing a hose on that?
The 14,000, that's for, so when we did this, some of that 14,000 is mostly from the fire, so that we had like $9,500 in nozzles go.
Okay.
So that covered that, because I had nowhere else to pull it out of the operating budget, so when we get the insurance money back, that money should be replaced back into that line item for the hose replacement. That's why it's encumbered that way. The $70,696, that is the air pack payment.
It's the lease payment, right?
Right. Mhm. Trying to find where the, you know what I don't see on this? I don't see engine 7.
Isn't that, I just assumed that came under as part of the 810,000.
It might be,
Fire
but,
truck reserve.
yeah, but it might be, but it shows that it expended 811,000. See it?
Yeah.
But we're not done paying for that truck yet. I'll have to find out from Tony what's going on. Okay.
Okay. Operating budget request. Do we know what the Board of Selectmen recommended to the Board of Finance?
Actually, we haven't looked at it.
We haven't looked at it. I don't know.
Information technology. So I know that you've been looking at our current provider in connection with the town's contracting with the Amity High School Tech Department.
Yeah, so,
But, you know, there's a limit to how much this we want to talk about in open session because of security concerns. So you could just tell us where you're at on that.
so basically we took the contract that we have, and we took the contract that the town basically entered in with all the other departments, with Amity, and we have some questions that have to come up, but we are willing to meet with Amity, but no one's really reached out to us. The town signed an agreement with Amity, which started, I think it starts March 1, and that's basically all we know, so we don't know what type of services they're gonna offer, or they'll be able to, if they can handle us, that'd be great. If they can't, we'd be back with our same company that we just entered in with last July. So we're willing to do it. No one's reached out to us, so we can reach out and see what they're willing to offer, and we can move forward. I know I did have a conversation with the first selectman, and basically if it's not something we really want to enter in, she would be in agreement to stay with our current provider. So, I mean, if we can do it, it would save the town some money, and we'd be willing to take a look at it and see where we go from there. But we really can't make any choices because we haven't met with them, so.
Yeah, so there's operational issues, whether, I mean, we know what our current provider does, and
Correct.
I think that we're very satisfied with what they're doing.
We are not saying that anybody else can't do it. We
Right.
just have to, we have to sit down and
And
talk
so
to them and
whether-
see what they offer. And as long as they offer the same things and doing the same things.
So So that's whether they operationally, they can meet our needs, and then there's the financial side of it. And whether, how this can be budgeted for.
I think what we did is, over the last 7 years, we built a system that's basically robust and secure, and we just don't want to jeopardize going backwards and opening things up. We'd rather be moving forward. Right now, we have a contract basically that's proactive, and when I read more the Amity contract, it more sounds like it's reactive. So if you have an issue, you call in, where the systems that we've been running for the last 7 years, it's basically we're proactive. So if there's an issue, we take care of it, or something's coming up, we want to be proactive about it before something breaks. So that's what we're more looking toward and what we're striving for.
So one of the things our contract provides is,
I think we want to talk about it, especially.
well, I was just gonna say, there's 24/7 monitoring, and there is equipment, in our systems that reports to the vendor, the contractor, so that if something, Sean and Amy do something, if something goes down in the middle of the night, they'll get the notice and it's fixed before they come in the morning.
You don't want to be reporting problems.
Well, not
Well,
in our.
what you don't want to do is you also don't want to come in at 8 o'clock in the morning and have the system down for 2 or 3 hours.
That's what I mean.
Yeah.
They're waiting for you to identify the problem before
Correct.
they do start fixing it. You're going to have downtime.
Right. Or
Because
they
we
have
need
to
to be up and
figure
running
out,
when the-
or we have to
when the
figure out what it
monitor-
is. So we have to figure it out instead of the middle of the night. If it goes down, they're already on top of it. By the time we come in, everything's up and running. They were going to report on what happened and what they fixed and how they did it.
So the bottom line is you're still looking into it.
Yeah.
Well, we're looking into it. We haven't met with Amity yet, so.
Okay.
Do we need to figure that out? How do we connect with them?
We're with our current provider. We're going to be with our current provider until July 1. So we have a little bit of time to figure it out.
No, I mean just connect, like to talk to Amity. How do we facilitate that conversation?
I guess either, I was thinking Town Hall was gonna reach out to us and set it up. We could probably reach out and figure out who to contact or what the next step is. But
So the timing wise, Amity hasn't started with stuff that, their initial phase with the town. They're starting, on March 1st. So it would seem to me it's a little premature for us to they should get their feet wet first before we start talking about expanding into our departments. On the other hand, we're in the middle of budget season, and we can't necessarily, we should have an answer to the question before the budget is set. So we'll talk some more.
okay.
All right, Chief's report.
Okay, we've been busy lately. We had a couple serious motor vehicle accidents over the last week. One being on Amity Road, where we had to extricate somebody from a vehicle, 3-car motor vehicle accident.
Is that the one in my house?
Yes, we had to extricate one. We had, toward the end of the call, we had an issue where we, on the rescue, we had an issue with the main bus fuse on the truck. There was a 300 amp fuse that blew. We were able, with the helps of Mike's Towing, to be able to get the truck back to the garage here and get the fuse, and we were able to fix it relatively cheap and inexpensive, but the truck did go down. But that was after we did completed the extrication.
With that, excuse me, but by repairing it the way you did, by getting it running and back here, you saved serious tow expense.
Well, the tow expense probably would have been a couple $1,000s, and then we would have we saved probably $1,000 in work. So it was a good savings that we did, but it happens, and that's where we have the engineers that we have that could do stuff like that to save us quite a bit of money.
300 amp fuse, most of us don't have 300 amp service in our houses.
We had a motor vehicle accident this past weekend on Friday night. I was on Route 15 by the Johnson Road overpass. It was a serious accident. We pulled up. What happened was the car, this was the car, went sideways, and it basically split the guardrails, two guardrails, and the car went between the two guardrails and basically crushed the car down. And when we pulled up, you couldn't see the driver in the vehicle because the hood was completely down. It basically contoured his body, and it was going to be we thought it would be a prolonged extrication, probably at least an hour to cut him out. We had one of the doctors on the Sharps team that was driving by that stopped and agreed that it was probably going to be a good, probably 50 minute to an hour extrication. We couldn't see the victim, so we couldn't get vitals. He was talking to us, seemed like he was okay. And from the time of dispatch to the time we had him out of the car, it was about 34 minutes, which is really good. And once we had the trucks on scene, it was 20 minutes. So we had him out in 34 minutes from the time of dispatch, which was incredible. So we had to cut the guardrail. As we were cutting the guardrail, we hit the lines out. There was a lot of fuel on the ground, a lot of gas smell. As we were cutting, the sparks ignited the fuel. The car caught fire underneath, and the road caught fire probably for about 30 feet down the road. We were able to put it out. There was no harm to the patient in the vehicle, but it basically threw everything we had to get him out of the vehicle between fire and extrication. During that extrication, we did break one of our spreaders, the jaws, as people know them by. They're coming tomorrow to pick up that spreader and to see what they have to do to fix it, or we have to replace it. And they're dropping us off a loaner tool, which we have a spare tool that we took off of another vehicle that we could put on it. So we have the spreader back onto that truck. So we're not down without it. One of our smaller trucks doesn't have it right now, but we're going to work on that tomorrow. Hopefully they can change. Hopefully it's like a sprocket inside they have to replace, and it may or may not be under warranty. Otherwise, we'd have to replace the tool, and if we have to replace the tool, probably in the area of about $8,000 to $10,000. So hopefully it's something that could be fixed. But
That's why you have redundant equipment.
correct. So
Can't do without that.
right.
I have a dumb question. Does the apparatus fit underneath the
Yes.
the overpasses?
Yes.
I'm glad someone asked the question.
Engine 9 went out for its routine maintenance, the oil lube filter. That went out last week and it came back. So that was the last truck on rotation that had to go out for the year. So as long as we don't have any other catastrophic failures, we're okay. Engine 3 still has to go out because from the fire we still have a leaking packing underneath the truck, the packing that for the pump that has to be replaced, and we may have a frozen tube that cracked during that fire, which may have to be replaced. So we're looking into that. We're just trying to stagger the equipment going out so we're not without a bunch of equipment in the bay at one time. So it's just taking some time. We met with I met with the insurance adjuster last Friday to go over some of the damaged equipment so we can get some pictures and start writing down some stuff. We owe him some stuff. We have to give him a list of what we have so far. There's still a bunch of stuff pending because stuff is on order, like the nozzles were on order. They actually just came in today. We're waiting on the big brass valves in the back of the tankers. Those are on order. They basically make those, make them to order. So they were about 8 to 10 weeks out, so they should be coming in hopefully this week, next week, or even the week after, depending on the lead time on them. So we don't have the valves yet, and we don't have the bill for that yet.
You have an idea what they cost?
If I had to guess, each valve is probably in the area of about $1,500. Other than that, with the apparatus, we're okay. We did have an issue with the apparatus, which we're getting a price on now. It actually happened right after the structure fire we had. We had another call We had engine 2 in the driveway, and as they backed out, there was a snowbank. And when they ran over the snowbank, they pulled the mud flap underneath the tire. And when they did that, the mud flap is screwed into the wheel well. They pulled the plastic lining to the wheel well off of the truck. So we're looking to get that fixed and replaced so we don't have all the sand and all the stuff going right up into the truck. The wheel well will actually protect engine 2, or protects all the dirt and everything going into the electronics and everything.
It's 2 steel?
It's aluminum, extruded aluminum. But we have all the wiring harnesses and everything in there.
Okay. So that has been estimated yet? Or?
No, we're working with North Haven Auto Body. They're trying to, there's special bolts that we have to get to screw this back up. We're gonna try to use the existing piece, otherwise we have to purchase a new one from E1. Okay. So that basically covers apparatus. Dispatch, it's gotten better. We've had a couple issues in the last week or so where we had some delays in dispatch. So hopefully the new radio system with the dispatch software should fix that.
Some incomplete information, some calls.
I think it's more getting some updates and some delays in sending the tone out. The radio system upgrade, we've had a couple meetings about the radio system. I think it was last week, the first selectman appointed myself and the chief of police onto the radio committee to move forward to design and get the radio system built. So we're in the process of, they started licensing for all these sites. We're in the process of making agreements with the tower sites at the tower locations and starting to review the bid document for the Motorola contract on the equipment that we're supposed to be getting. Structure fire, I mean, that's basically, we talked about that the last time. We're still going through the equipment. We still have damage to the equipment which has to go out. And if I had to guess, we're probably in the area of about between probably $25,000 and $30,000 in damage that night. There was some talk, and there's been some talk about possibly looking into charging for some of these things, where if we go to a motor vehicle accident, the town might be able to charge the insurance company a service to go there. So if we use Speedy Drive, if we use drip pans, if we use whatever equipment or whatever resources we use, there might be a fee that the town can charge. We don't know, right, to the person that created the accident, caused the accident, but we don't know what that cost would be. We don't know if it's even beneficial to even charge for that. It might be minuscule, where it's probably more of a headache to try to do the bill and then send it out and try to track it, whether it gets paid or not, than it is to actually bill, but we'll look into that.
I kind of like it as a deterrent to, texting or driving.
Well, remember, your insurance company would most likely pay it.
Yeah, but then your insurance is going. I mean, what happens when you hit a telephone pole and you break it? You pay for it, right?
Well, your insurance pays for it, yes.
Your insurance pays for it?
Yeah.
Your insurance pays for it.
And your insurance rates go up.
And they pay, and they pay the tow truck. The tow trucks are private contractors, not government services.
Right.
That's the difference. But there's a difference between a bag of absorbent, which is, what's a bag of Speedy right now? $20?
No, a bag of Speedy Jar is like $8 or $9 a bag.
Okay,
But
there's a
I
difference
might
between
do
that.
it.
we might go through 12 or 15 bags on the scene, so.
Right. Well, there's a difference between that and $30,000 worth of nozzles and valves, hoses, and
Right.
apparatus that breaks, fighting a fire in 2-degree weather. But yeah, the absorbent is not, one bag isn't expensive, but it adds up.
Right, or like the equipment that broke down the merit, you know?
Right.
$8,000 to $10,000
Yeah.
worth of equipment.
And that's something you have no idea. I mean, if it breaks, it breaks. I mean, there's no way to know the tool's gonna break right then and there.
Sure.
I would never have thought the spreaders would have broken on that scene the other night, but it happens. Remember, the spreaders are now, I think we got the spreaders when we got that truck, so the spreaders are 10 years old on that truck. So, I
And they
mean,
get used, it's heavy duty
Yeah.
use, and it's not.
right,
All right.
okay. New apparatus, we are still working on the bid spec. We just, over the last month, I really haven't had time to really sit down and go over it with the committee, so we'll be working on that in the next month. I think it's important, I saw part of the Board of Selectmen meeting, I think it's important when they look at our budget, and, I mean, I've said this to the first selectman, I think when they look at our budget and went through it, I think they went line by line this year at the Board of Selectmen meeting, and I don't think they knew exactly what each line does. So when they're sitting here and they want to cut this or they want to do this, I think it sounds great that you're cutting, you're trying to save the town money, but you're also, it's not really practical or responsible just to sit and cut when we basically have 10 minutes or 15 minutes to present our budget. And basically you're going to go through and lop it off on items, line items we didn't even talk about because they stayed the same. They're more interested in the lines that increased. So we basically more talk about those than the lines that basically are staying the same and we don't really talk about. I mean, if there's questions before they cut, we should really be given the opportunity, if there are questions on the different lines, to be asked those before they sit and cut those. Like the technical line, we increased it to 40. And I mean, that was an easy justification only because of our call volume going up. So when we look at $2,000 for more speed drive, more absorbent, more everything, I mean, we also added over 100 more calls to our average year. So I think it's just important to know what some of these line items do, so we don't run short and then have to go back to the boards and request more money based on that. So,
Sorry, I'm late.
Can we submit something in writing? I mean, so you're talking about the last Board of Selectmen meeting with.
I only saw part of it, so I don't want to speak for the whole thing. I only saw part of our budget, and when I saw, I think they weren't sure on what the different lines were for, so.
They were just asking questions, right? Individuals, they didn't vote on anything, right?
I don't think I don't know exactly what they did. I haven't gotten the breakdown yet. I have to go online to get it, but I did have a conversation with the first selectman about that. And I guess they are looking to change the budget process come next year.
The process is imperfect. You know, they've got, I mean, you've seen the book, it's like this, and there's, dozens of departments and hundreds of lines, and so
Yeah,
nobody gets a whole lot of time.
right. Then we have that preliminary budget hearing, which is really, everything's done.
Right.
Yeah, so we could, I mean, and that's an opportunity to, to get up and make our case. We could go to the.
I don't think it's,
We could go to Board of
right, I don't
Finance
think
meetings
it's-
and talk about it too, but,
I don't think it's, I don't think they're doing it maliciously. I just
No, no,
think
no.
it's more
not
before you
realistic.
start
It's
cutting.
not
Right.
realistic.
It's just like our repair maintenance line, right?
Yeah.
And
Good example.
last year we were at 89,000. We had 68 in the budget. They cut us down to I think 58 or 59,000 this year. The year before that we were at 120,000. So when we go down, it looks good for the number to come down, and I understand the thought process behind it. It's just that's a line that we really don't know where we're going to end. So if we want to keep that line low with the understanding that we're going to consistently go over it, I mean, well, we're asking the memo we just sent over, which they're going to take on toward the end of the year, and we asked for an additional 35,000. Seems like a lot of money, but that's more of a realistic number. Where if we had that in the budget, we'd be looking to come close to hit our number. And if we go over that, then there's got to be extenuating circumstances, maybe something happened with the truck brought it out, we need to do this, something special, but the everyday stuff it's just adding up. And remember, the trucks are going to more calls now, so the equipment's getting a lot more use and everything else, so you gotta expect everything to increase. So before you sit and just start cutting things out of the budget, I think we really need to know what we're cutting, what's an acceptable cut and what's not.
Well, and then, and then the other part of it is how come we go over budget on certain lines? And we're having to go over budget every year on repair and maintenance. Why can't we stay within our budget? But if the equipment breaks, we have to fix it.
And you have old equipment.
Yeah, so it gets worse.
I mean, I know a hot topic, or I know a topic that they're talking about is the volunteer incentives. It's more of a retirement program for the volunteers. I know there's some issues or some questions that have arisen in the past about some people don't think the older membership should be getting any type of retirement out of the program, but the guys that have been here 40 or 50 years, you got to realize for the first 20 years of their being here, they got nothing because the program wasn't in existence. The program came into existence, I want to say in 1991. So these guys have been here, they didn't get anything, and now they're still responding, but we have an older membership where they basically put their time in, and when you have 40 and 50 and even 60-year members, I mean, I don't have the heart to take that away from them because I think they deserve it, and they put their time in, and they've done all this, and they still contribute in their own way, and it's part of the fire department. I don't think that's a realistic thing to sit and call you out and say, hey, listen, we appreciate you being here 45 or 50 years, and we don't think that you should be getting any of the retirement money. I don't think that's realistic. I think that program should stay in effect, and I think what should happen is, and there's minimums they have to hit. The tax abatement that we've been going after is more of an incentive. So right now on the bond program, you have to hit your 20% of fire calls, 50% of meetings, truck crews, training and everything else to be able to be eligible for that. With the tax abatement, what we're looking to do is right now you have to make a little over 100 calls a year to be eligible for the bond for the retirement program. With the tax abatement, we're looking to increase that to 25% of the calls. So we're looking, saying to the guys, hey, listen, at 2 o'clock in the morning or 3 o'clock in the morning, when you got to get up for work, say 6:30 in the morning, go. We're asking you to get up in the middle of the night. And it basically, when you're up at 2 o'clock in the morning or even 1:30 in the morning and you're out for even an hour, then you go back, you got to unwind, you're basically 2.5 to 3 hours out of your night's sleep, and you're basically shot the next day. So what we want to do is we want to say, hey, listen, if you get up and you come to an extra 5% of the calls, we're willing to give you a tax abatement to abate your taxes, which probably only 20 to 25 guys would probably be eligible for it in a given year for that. That's basically what we're anticipating. I mean, could 30 guys make it? Sure, 30 guys could make it, but I don't really see that. I see it more being 20 to 25. But we're also asking these guys to give another 5%, which doesn't sound like a lot, but it's a lot when you're talking about over 500 calls a year. I mean, it's a lot of time because a call could last anywhere between 30 minutes and it could be a few hours. So I think
You'll see that in time, how much
Right.
more time
All
with
right,
the
so
calls.
here's,
What's once a week, roughly?
What's that?
Once a week, roughly.
Right. So it could.
Well, we had 5 something last year, so, twice, it depends.
no,
Some
like
weeks it's
500
more.
calls.
100,
is
125.
10 a week.
So, yeah.
So here's the thing. We have the department, we, meaning supervised by the fire commission and the department and the association and the office. There's a comprehensive plan to have so we have an effective volunteer force. Right? And because we're not, you're not paying people to, hourly to show up as in a career department. So there are things like the bond program, and the association's requirements for what they have to do to remain in, so it's remaining in good standing, and Sean knows more than I do, I don't speak generally about it, but, meeting the numbers. And then the service elements, that all the things that the department does in volunteerism, that's not putting out fires.
You gotta realize
All
there's also training that's incorporated, so training ends up being a lot. So we have to do bloodborne pathogens, we have to do CPR, we have to do EMT, we have to do all these things. And some of these things are annual, so they have to be done every year to keep current. And it's a lot of time, a lot of hours, just on top of the call. So we're basically, when you join the fire department, you're giving up every single Tuesday night, whether it's a training, a truck crew, a meeting, whatever it may be. That's basically what you're doing here. So it's basically, we're looking for 52 Tuesdays on top of anything else that comes up. So some of the training may happen on a weekend, like a Saturday and Sunday. So we're asking you to give up a weekend here and there, and along with everything else. So it ends up being quite a bit. And then when we're asking you to come to say, even if we increase it for the tax abatement to 25%, I mean, you're talking a lot of time here, and for what you're getting, I don't think it's that bad.
So my thought is that I think we could come up with a pretty effective PowerPoint presentation that you shouldn't show at your recruitment events. But that we could show at the Board of Selectmen every time this question comes up, because I kind of feel like it's an education thing. I think people don't understand. I think they see something like volunteer incentives on the budget, and they don't understand.
And the line volunteer incentives on the operating budget is actually, it's mislabeled. It should be a retirement line. It's not an incentive. It's
Right.
more of a
It implies
retirement.
that it's just a budget line item that you can spend however you want to incentivize. I mean, that's that when I
No,
did it
there's
the
a
first
program.
time, that's what I thought of.
Right.
And when I
And there's a
learned
program
what
that
it
was, right.
It's, and what's expected of volunteers, I think it becomes a non-issue. That's
Because
what
you need your membership, and you also need turnout on the calls. And
I don't
it's
think
not why
anybody's
they're doing
here
it,
for the
it's
money. I
encouraging.
just think it's, hey, listen, if I can get $500 or $1,000 off my taxes, and I got to get up once a week, or one more time a week to do something like that, or 2 more times a week, maybe I'll get up and do it. Just gives them the
And
incentive.
the longevity is important too,
Absolutely.
for guys that say, well, if I stick it out, if I make my calls every year, then it's going to be recognized.
Can we propose that for the commissioners too?
I don't think it's
Oh, I think
honestly. I don't think the program's not a negative thing. If anything, it's a positive thing,
That's what I
and that's what
think.
you're looking. That's what we need to stress, especially in this day and age where volunteerism is basically dying throughout the country, and what's required. Whether you're a paid fire department or volunteer, you're still required to do the same amount of stuff, whether it be training, fire equipment, maintaining fire apparatus. Everything is still the same moving forward. And what happens is every year something else gets added on, and it ends up being a lot of stuff. It wasn't like it was 20 years ago where, training, it wasn't that big of a deal. Nowadays, it's really
It's
regimented.
not the
This is
bucket
what you need
brigade
to
where,
do.
call the farmers and everybody else,
Right.
put out the barn fire.
I mean, back in the 70s, where these guys basically came in the 60s, as long as you were, I think it was before 78, 77 or 78, you didn't need to be firefighter 1. So basically everybody before that didn't need to take firefighter 1. And years ago, you had the guys would go in with no air packs, and you'd fight a fire with no air packs, and you put the fire out. Nowadays, now you have carcinogens and everything else that affect your lungs, and people are dying and this and that. Now you have to have your breathing, you have to wear SCBA. You have to, your breathing air that we put in the tank has to be tested every single year to make sure the air that the guys are breathing is acceptable. So there's a lot more that goes into this than it did 20 or 30 years ago. So I think what we're asking for is not unacceptable, and I think the way it comes off is I don't know if it's necessarily greed or it's basically it's ridiculous that they're asking for it. It's not really ridiculous,
The
it's
thing is
more.
that no matter what we do, there's the people that are.
They don't understand the
People are
grand
gonna-
scheme of
People are
everything
gonna
else.
criticize things that they don't necessarily.
Yeah, but I don't think it's fair for the guys to go through that and feel that way, because,
My mantra that I learned from my 13-year-old is assume good intentions and educate. You know, they're trying to do what their role is, their position is, they're trying to cut where we can cut with the least amount of pain, and I think it's just a matter of educating them about the importance of it.
I agree, but when you come after, I don't think doing it in a public forum and going after people is the right way to do it. If there's questions, we
If you're
should.
talking about 20, well, you know, there's been 20, 30 years ago, I think we would go back 5 years and see what's happened to the call.
Well,
I mean, you don't have to go back that
yeah,
far.
I just want to put on the record that I don't think it's a negative thing, I think it's a really positive thing. So, that's all I really have to say about it.
You said longevity too, and you're putting in a big investment in these firefighters.
Yeah, so
So
when
you
we,
don't
when we
want
look at it.
turnover.
Right, when we look at a firefighter, it costs us roughly between $5,000 and $6,000 between the training, between gear that we have to issue. And we try to issue them older gear, but remember, gear's got a 10-year shelf life. So once gear hits 10 years, we have to replace it. The guys can't even train in it because they can't go into the burn buildings or anything else, because if they get hurt, the gear is out of date and it's not per NFPA standards anymore, and it has to be replaced anyway. So there's certain things that, limitations that we have. We try to take a guy that's been here for 10 years or whatever, and he's really active, and we usually try to outfit him with new gear, and take his gear, and we put it down to the newer recruits. So if it gets destroyed or whatever else during the fire school or whatever else, it's not brand new gear. So we try to turn things over like that. So we try to be as responsible as we can with it, some of this. But there's some of the stuff that's just beyond our control, like the physicals. The physicals, every firefighter, and we went through this a year ago when we had the fire at the JCC, every single firefighter needs to have an annual physical within 365 days. We try to spread the budget out where we didn't exceed the number that was given to us. So we basically gave people a 3-month grace period. So we basically give them between 9 months and 15 months. Well, the problem is anything, if we don't have the paperwork in hand for your physical at day 365, day 366, we have to pull your gear and you're out of service until we get a current copy of your physical. So, and that's an
And then we got
OSHA mandate and
veterans
everything else. We don't have a choice, so we lose a guy until that happens. But when it comes down to the budget purposes, I guess the town really has to say, well, we're only gonna give you, say, $30,000 for physicals, and if we come in at 32, then we gotta start pulling people off of gear and say, we have to wait for the next budget cycle before we can send you for a physical. And a lot of things, a lot of lines fall under that. So it's the same thing with the gear line. Some years we're really good, some years we're not so good, but we try to compensate and keep everything balanced. So I just want to put it out there that we do the best we can with what we have. And I mean, I think the town is generous with our budget and they help us out any way they can. But there's some innuendos and some comments that don't really sit well, and I don't think it's appropriate. That's all.
All right, next item on the agenda is the activity report.
Sir.
Assistant Chief Honor.
So you can see when you look at it, the hours have gone up too, with everything. We had about 38 calls. As the chief said, we had a bunch of fire accidents the last week and a half that were extended period of time because of extrication and everything.
All right, so this is the January.
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah, yeah. But still the hours and everything, so we're at 681 per hour. So we've been there, we've been at certain calls longer and everything too. Yeah, it will fires in this big year.
So if we look at, this January was 38 calls, last year
Yeah.
was 40 calls, the year before was 35 calls. But the hours are way up, and you're saying, basically saying that's.
You have Inwood Road in there
Yeah,
too.
Wood Road, which
Was
is a lot of hours.
Yeah,
Plus, if I remember correctly, these hours don't include
everything else.
the hours that.
So when we
follow
came back,
When you came back.
and we
Which
were
is
here
at
the
least
next,
as much time as you were on scene.
yeah, when we came back that night, I don't remember what time it was, but we were here for God knows how many more hours. Then the next day, there was a bunch of us here working on stuff and getting all the gear back together and everything too. So basically, as we're still going through equipment, so it's still hours.
Are those hours tracked?
No.
No.
Other than,
Like a
guys
Tuesday night,
showing
we
for
take,
truck crew?
yeah, we take attendance and all like that for training, truck crew meetings and stuff like that.
If you could somehow just come up with an estimate like we do for court, every hour in court is at least an hour out prepping. So, if you have any, just an anecdotal thing where we could say, okay,
We're here 3 hours at
300
night,
hours.
doing that, like on a meeting night, we're here 3 hours, this amount of people kind of thing.
Yeah, we can guesstimate what we have.
do you know how many hours, the Inwood Fire does? I'm just wondering about trending.
We could probably go back to the call and break it out, but can't do that right this second.
No, but that's sort of
An
it's a
idea what the-
useful estimate, not necessarily for, for every call, but a big fire like that, it'd be useful to know what the manpower was on scene, the hours on scene versus in some estimate, ballpark of what it took afterwards, just so that we know that and we can.
Because yeah, our hours have, compared to last year to this and everything, 15 as well. 15.
What's that?
Yeah, so was 15 or 14? No, it was just- I don't know.
I'm just curious if
One of the signal will fire personnel that is offered active steel alarm. It'll be an active steel alarm coming from basement. It'll be 130 Center Road, that's 130 Center Road for the activated steel alarm coming from basement.
Because we're 100. He's 67, so it's that way. Starts the race for So, but yeah, that's pretty much where we are right now. So,
yeah, I'm just curious if the 681 is a blip or is it a trend from the 215
everything else has been going up with times.
green?
So, and some of the calls we have more manpower on and everything too at the same time.
2015, 705 hours.
Right.
On fewer calls, so
That could be because
that could have been a big storm.
well, that could be a storm, and the guys were out there waiting for you, or it could be anything.
Yeah.
Okay, any other questions on the apparatus report? Fire marshal's report.
Okay, was out 61 times. I give you 2 public fire education. I did some consulting between the Beecher School and the JCC. We pre-fire planned the fuel cell over at Amity High. And you see investigation on there 3 times. When I get free time, I'm still working on the Inwood Road fire investigation. And 47 inspections.
What do white knight implants do? Remember that?
Teeth.
Ah, okay. I'm thinking hips. No, knees.
Teeth.
White?
I don't know. We learn about our town from you.
There's some new businesses coming in. There's a couple new businesses we see.
Were you here when we had roller derby?
Yes.
Oh.
The first year I was here, we're doing roller derby. There were some interesting people there.
It's back too, right?
Yeah, they gotta be proud of me.
I don't know, that's fun.
123, 1812.
So if I see a business here that's got 4 violations on the first page,
He's working on it.
and then further down, F0, does that mean, it
Oh,
fixed it?
if you see him on there again, yeah, that means I come back there and he's corrected him.
Okay. Sure. Okay, any other questions on the report? Oh, you said you did 2 fire education sessions?
Yeah, I can't, what was it?
Nancy Fun,
What was it?
Nancy Fun.
Yeah, but I can't remember the name of that. I want to say Latchkey Kids, right, or something like that?
Yeah, it was for like an after-school, stay home alone for kids program
And what,
through youth services.
Oh, okay.
yeah, youth services. And I'm not sure what the other one was, but if I go out and install a smoke detector for somebody, I put that down as public fire, because there's no way to really listen it.
Okay.
And just to make it aware, part of our budget, we bought CO detectors and everything, so we have more because we went through them, so we ordered, how many did we get? We got like $1,000 worth of CO detectors, which we go through pretty often, so
How long do they last?
5 years.
$1,000 worth? No, we'll probably have to.
No, I meant a unit, once it's installed.
CO is 5
CO
years.
is about 5 years. Smoke
Smoke
detectors supposed to be replaced every 10.
It's going to be a very interesting article in the upcoming town newsletter about this very topic.
Very nice.
Be sure to
So
read
if
that.
mine are more than 10 years old,
They should be replaced.
What if they're hardwired?
Same thing.
Really?
it's a sensor, right?
It's the sensor inside, yeah.
In my house 11 years.
See, almost time.
Have you replaced them?
Are they hardwired?
Okay. So I've got nothing to add. We skipped over public comment and liaison comments. And so I see 2 liaisons in the room, in the back of the room. Is there a board of selectmen liaison I
Did you do the budget already?
Well, you mean the budget request?
What the Board of Selectmen?
No,
did?
we didn't know what the board of selectmen did.
Oh,
You want to talk about it?
I went over it with the chief, I guess. Sure, I could come up. You want me to approach?
Yes, you may approach the bench.
Quite tired, so my apologies.
Well, we don't have to hear from you.
No, it's okay. I brought it because I saw it on the agenda and I thought you might have, sorry. I just
Well, we talked about it generally.
We went over this. I went over this with Sean last week.
I just
and-
didn't have the paper.
It's okay. It's done, okay. The regular clerical position is going to personnel. We're having difficulty scheduling it,
Okay.
but it will be there, I promise. We have till April to get that straightened out, for the preliminary budget hearing. I don't know if I'm talking. We left it in there, but
We have a cleaning company, which is it's part of our budget. The other town departments have cleaning. It's not in their budget. The town employs 2 full-time people and 2 part-time people, if my memory is correct. We
Clarified that.
have, and when we built this building, and even when we had the other building, they didn't have time to come over and clean our building. And then when we built this building, obviously it was bigger than the building across the street and they didn't have the time. So we basically took our cleaning company that we had across the street and brought them over, and they've been here for the last 10 years since we've been in the building. And I guess it came up at the Board of Selectmen, they wanted to try to cut that down a little bit, or there was a question on why we're spending the money to clean the building when they have top personnel. But the answer is basically they don't have the people to keep up with it. So this is that, but
I think
there
they
is
just
some
wanted to know
special.
why there was a private company, because it's a new board. You
Well,
know, it
it's
wasn't,
Right, so-
right, it
If
wasn't really
The
questioning
town
why.
could provide us,
Get
which
rid of
we
it.
talked about last week, the town is hopefully gonna be able to provide us somebody maybe once a week to maybe come over and do some special projects like wipe the windows, wash the windows, do the gear room floor, so we don't have to pay a private service to come in and do it, like we've been doing. We're able to save some money in there, but it's really up in the air because we haven't tried it or we haven't done it yet. But we clean our building once a week right now. We have a company come in once a week where the town buildings get cleaned, I think it's every day, correct?
Yes.
Monday through Friday, which is okay because we're a volunteer department. We're here really, our biggest day is Tuesday unless we have a major call. I mean, guys are in and out all day long, and the downstairs really needs to be cleaned. To clean upstairs every single day, it's really not practical. We don't need it. But if we could take some of the special projects like the windows and stuff like that, and the town maintenance, the town, I don't know, what do you call them, maintenance people, janitors, custodians,
Right.
can do it, we'd be more than willing to do that and see how it works out.
And we know how, roughly how many hours the cleaning service spends here. How many hours.
Right, so it's all tracked,
Yeah.
what they do. I think it costs us like $200 a week to clean the building, which isn't bad. They empty all the garbage cans, they vacuum, they wash the floors, they take the garbage out in the bays, they clean the bathrooms, clean the day room, they wipe down some of the furniture and stuff like that. So, I mean, we get what we pay for, and it's okay.
So
I
we
mean,
can, we
it's,
have numbers that we can compare to what, see
Correct.
what the town custodial availability is.
but to cut it out of the budget, it's not really practical at this point. It's not going to be a huge savings
We just
because
thought
the building
it'd be
still
something
needs to be
look at,
cleaned.
But it's, either way, it has to get done, so it's just whether or not
Right,
we.
whether the town
Whether the
personnel
town-
has the,
Right.
whether
Right.
the town has the manpower to do it.
So,
I will tell you that the amount, there was, the requested budget for 18-19 was $50,688,528, and Board of Selectmen were able to drop it to $46,923,768. It's on its way to Board of Finance on March 7th. As of right now, if we do nothing, the amount to be raised by taxes will be 4.73%, which is a lot. And the mill rate, if we do nothing further, will be go from 39.44. If the Board of Selectmen had not acted, it would have gone up to 43.93. Big jump. We got it down to 40.37, and I'm assuming the Board of Finance will do further. So it's a lot.
Net, what are you looking at?
Well, we gotta get it under 40 somehow, at some point, but, there's, they have the emphasis, the consensus of the Board of Selectmen was that they were gonna ask the Board of Selectmen, they made no changes from what Tony and I did prior to the meeting, which was surprising, but, there's several areas that they're gonna look at, one being postage, one of the selectmen would like us to look into being self-insured. These are just facts, not commenting at all. They're going to revisit all conferences because that's maybe one of the areas that we can cut back a little bit on. There were several areas that in the general budget that a lot of the departments maybe we could cut back a little bit on because the mill rate just can't keep going up. It's funny, everybody's happy with what they want for themselves. For example, trash pickup, but I don't want my taxes to go up. Country Club of Woodbridge, I don't want anything over there, but I don't want my taxes to go up. Or I want the schools to be everything. Schools get everything, but I want my taxes to go up. And they have to go up. We can't sustain it any other way. So it's very difficult. And as you all know, we have a small commercial tax base. And so I don't know if you've been following, but we engaged with CERC, Connecticut Economic Resource Council. They're going to look at everything in our budget. They're going to look at the mill rate. They're going to look at all the departments, see things that are maybe we could do better to save money. We're starting to consolidate services such as IT. When I came in, there were 5. I'm doing a platform here. This really has nothing to do with fire, but we had 6 IT companies in 7 departments. So we brought them almost all down now, so we're getting there. So there's a lot of, opportunities, whether or not we're going to be able to get it. I'd like to have no tax increase at all. I don't know how you do it. Somebody has some ideas, come and see me. So Board of Finance is going to be working on it a week from Wednesday is their meeting. And My brother's having surgery next week, so I don't know if I'm gonna be able to make it, but we'll see. So if you guys should go or watch it on TV. And just generally, I guess on fire, there wasn't too much more that we did, right, Sean? It was like little things, $1,000 here and nothing really. The IT is, we'll see what happens with that.
The IT, what I understand is we're gonna take a look at AMD. Like I said to them, we're gonna have an open line. Hopefully it works out. If it doesn't, we've also said that we could stay with our own
You
IT
can,
company moving
yeah.
July 1.
Right.
Yeah, we talked about it a little bit, but that's.
They have to come over and see, they're starting, actually the next 2 days they're gonna be at town hall looking at what we have, so they'll come over and take a look and, you know, you don't have to change it if you don't want to.
Well,
But it's,
there's whether there should be a change and then what is the timing of the change.
right,
So, it may make sense to defer any change. You're starting, 3 months before July 1st now. It may
right.
make sense to defer any change here until.
Right. I want to get all the kinks worked out there before we come here. And police as well is going to be a big time. They're going to have to work hard with the police department on doing that department. So, when is your contract up with?
July 1.
So could you renew it for like a monthly basis, or do you have to do a whole year?
I don't know. We're looking at it.
Yeah,
We're doing that.
yeah, just in case. Because you may be unable to, I don't know, just a thought.
But like I told them, we can't make a decision because we've never even met with them.
Exactly.
So we don't know what they
Right.
offer.
I haven't either. They're coming this week for the first time.
Well,
to
I'm
town.
hoping you've met with them before.
Yeah. Well,
because
not
I'd be
in the sense
assigned.
where, no, but not when they like drill down and look at what we have. They've done some of it, but not with me personally.
Well, it might be, an opportunity there once you do get a sense from them what they're able to provide to go back and
Right.
negotiate some savings thing.
Right. I'm looking forward to it, so. And I think that's pretty much it. Just so you guys know, I guess you probably should know about this. I don't think it's going to impact you at all, but we just recently contracted with UI at no cost to the town to install all the streetlights in the town of Woodbridge will be LEDs. And we're saving about $17,000 in our electrical budget next year. Oh, that's good, but I don't think it's going to impact roads because they just go from pole to pole to pole to pole. Some of the main roads you may see, we're probably going to have some police. I don't think they're going to shut down roads because it's just pulling over pole to pole to pole, as I understand
But
it.
it's probably more than just changing a light bulb.
Well, that's what he said. It's actually.
The fixture.
The fixture,
Exactly.
they changed the end.
Change the fixture.
It's quick though. He said they're just going, boom, boom, boom. They can do
You want to talk
50.
about that capital?
Yeah, okay, yeah.
Capital, sure. Right. Okay, we did, as I told you, and I told you ahead of time before we did it, we spread it out. And right now, okay, Engine 7 is funded because it's a given, it's already been bought. So that was put in for next year, the next payment. The air packs, the same thing. There's 3 more payments on Engine 7, 2 more payments on air packs, and the Board of Selectmen agreed that the breathing air compressor is a given and has to be funded. So we left that in there. For FY20, we put in, and we're hoping, we commented on tape, hoping to hear from you guys about the specs for the next Engine 3. So we can make the first payment in FY20, and that will come out over 5 years, and then 2 years after that, hopefully you'll have Engine 9 ready right after that, so we'll only payment the year after that. And technology, we left in of $37,000. There were some questions about what that was, but
That's basically, we need to replace our servers here for this year. And move for-
we're doing them at Town Hall as well. And I think the police department as well, so maybe we can get a better deal. We'll all do it at the same time. So, is that it?
I think so.
And I think that's all I have for you. I'm sorry I took up a lot of time. I'm sorry I was late.
No, that's true.
I had it on the
Thank you.
calendar for 6, and then I backed it up to 5, and
Yep.
just was still meeting with people at 5 o'clock today, so apologies.
Thanks for
The
coming.
good- Huh?
Thanks for coming.
I always like coming, it's pretty good here. Do you guys have any questions for me about anything? Anything that
I'll
came
think
up?
of something after we actually leave.
Okay. I don't sleep, so I've given that up. So you can call me anytime.
Does our other Fire Association liaison have anything to add?
I'll pass.
Okay, thank you.
I used to have so much time,
We
right?
have-
I know
we
you
have-
have to leave, right? Since you sent
We have-
birthday package?
We have an executive session on, I almost said menu, on the agenda.
Menu. I'll have one of those. Extra rare.
And we had, we had talked about, well, I was thinking about that perhaps IT would be discussed about in any detail, but do we need, I don't know if we really need to talk about this one, do we?
Roger, no deal now, all that residents have available, homeowners to ensure the warm earlier.
Sorry, I'm just listening.
Roger, all fire apparatus here available.
I mean, we didn't want to get into the details of the public session to the extent involves a contract negotiation. To be security, you're talking about
Right.
potential.
Absolutely.
Vulnerabilities might be exploited.
But unfortunately, we don't have anything for you yet.
Yeah, so I don't,
Well, I think we need to, I don't think the town could make, I don't think we can't move anytime soon anyway.
well, the
because
question is, do
we have
we
no
need
idea.
executive session tonight to talk about any of that? I don't think so.
Not enough information.
No.
I mean, there's a little bit we can talk about, but I don't think it's, okay. Correspondence?
That is true, that.
None. Minutes.
Have the, what's on the order? Open session contract.
But that's December, September.
Let's do it, but I have to put them some.
Okay, first minutes to be approved are September 18th.
September.
I had one change on it, which is in the middle of page 2, referred to Dave Ryan as labor lawyer, and he's not, he's a labor consultant. Town's labor consultant, so that, I didn't have anything else on that. Does anybody else have any other changes? Okay, I'd entertain a moment to approve the minutes of September 18th as corrected.
A motion to approve.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Shifrin seconds. All in favor? Next is the December 18th minutes. Chief, I had a question in the apparatus report section. It's at the stop engine light on Rescue 1. Is that, what's the stop engine light?
Stop engine
Is that the
light.
right word?
Yeah.
Okay. And that was the only question I had on those minutes. Does anybody else have any other changes or corrections? All right, I'd entertain a motion to approve the December 18th minutes. Is Karen in the motion? Is there a second?
Second.
Morton? All in favor?
Aye.
That's unanimous. Thank you. I haven't read the January 22nd minutes, so let's defer those until the next meeting, which we are scheduled on March 19th.
March 19th.
The same night as the preliminary budget. No, it's April.
Don't think it's a holiday, so we'll keep that date.
6 o'clock.
Yeah, one more thing. The Fire Association dance is Saturday night. It's at the new venues at the JCC. The Woodbridge Club had some water damage, and there was a room there that was basically gutted, so we can't really have the dance there. So the JCC was more than willing to help us out and open its doors. And we're having the dance there this year. Starts at 7 o'clock.
I heard it's close to selling out.
We Yeah, we sold quite a few tickets this year, quite a few people coming. And the fire commission usually takes out an ad in the book. If you guys would like to do that again this year.
We would. This is what, $100 a page?
Yeah.
Okay, now, we don't take that out of our budget, that comes out of our pockets.
Yeah. So we'll leave you in the book. But if you can come, it's a good time. We have a silent auction there,
And
a live auction,
And a live band this year.
and a live band, the Rum Runners. So it's going to be a good, good event. So if you can make it, it'd be great. Tickets are $25, or table is $175. A table of 8. So, good.
Okay,
Okay?
thank you for that. Motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Mr. Schifrin seconds, all in favor? Thanks, everybody.